This is a loosely coupled show with James Hickey and Comartin. If you're new to this channel, we chat about software architecture and design. Make sure to subscribe to get all our latest episodes. If you have a suggestion for a topic or a guest, make sure to let us know in the comments.
So yeah, I guess we'll talk about just the idea of, I don't even know what to call it, but I guess just kind of the state of the industry right now compared to 15 years ago, I'd say. Yeah, it's interesting because I had tweeted about this idea, and then literally like the next day you had tweeted
Which I'd never
your own
noticed,
thought.
yeah.
Yeah, about the exact same kind of like
I'll show both of
thing.
these right now in the video,
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I'll read mine and then I'll read yours. So basically, I just had to say, like, we're moving towards more of the industry is like the tooling in the industry, I guess, is definitely moving towards focused on developer convenience, and it should be. I mean, we want to develop things quicker and be able to like deliver value to customers faster. But then my comment was, what have we lost, or yeah, what have we lost? What's kind of the bad side of that, the trade-offs, I guess. And I'm just thinking of things like Chrome takes up like so much memory, and not just the browser. It's like if you're using any like any desktop application that's using Electron or something like that, right? Like those apps just by default, if you want to build an Electron app, kind of have like your baseline is like you've got a huge app and it takes up a lot of RAM. You can't really get around that. I mean, and node modules, it's like seriously, like if I seriously want to build like a basic front end thing, whatever, like say Vue.js, I want to use just like a very basic Vue.js client, maybe use TypeScript. It's like, I mean, I'm maybe exaggerating a little bit, but it's probably close to like a gig of space, maybe half a gig. I don't know. Like I remember doing this just a few weeks ago, like just yeah, having like this new project installed, just kind of like a really basic set of packages, and it was almost a gig. It's like what? Like that just it's so like yeah. I mean yeah. So basically, in my comment on Twitter here, I said the words that come to mind are cruft, waste, garbage, bloat. So yeah, my questions are like, all for the sake of convenience and speed, and there's the argument that like memory is cheap. So when we're talking about like a node modules for one project that's like half a gig or whatever, oh okay, well just get a bigger hard drive. But I mean, we could talk about that. I'll skip that for now because I'm gonna go back. I want to go forward to what you said the next day. And I'll read yours. So you said the next day, back in the early 2000s, I had a shell script I could run that SSH to prod server. It did it CSV export, renamed directories. I could run it from my BlackBerry.
Yeah, the good old BlackBerry.
Yeah. And yeah, so your comment is like, have we come a long way or not? And that's kind of what I was trying to say, right? It's like how far have we come in some ways, but in other ways it's like seriously, like when I think of the people who had to program in like the 70s, there's even like the 60s and 70s with like punch cards and stuff, even in the 80s and 90s, I guess, too, like definitely compared to now, when people had like kilobytes to deal with, right? Like you had to be very conscious of your memory usage and being fancy. Now I understand that if you're going to be writing like C++ code and you're like manually having to deal with allocating memory and things like that, like your code's going to be a lot more difficult to maintain. It's going to be harder to read. So yeah, there's definitely something to say for like human readable code, but at the same time, when we're talking about, I'll go back to like the node stuff. This it brings up a whole. This is like a
I
huge
know
discussion.
that's what I was about to say. It's really hard to narrow down this, like, because it can go in so many different directions how you want to think about the whole
Yeah,
thing.
I'll just say kind of a personal anecdote in regards to this, and it's basically around like, I have thoughts like, should I continue focusing in .NET, or should I maybe try to switch to like Node, because it definitely seems like there's longevity in terms of, let's say, popularity. But then when I think of it, there's that part of me that's like the craftsman, just the like artisan craftsman, if you want, just that part of me that thinks, seriously, like, if I enter that ecosystem, which, whatever, it is what it is, do I really want to build apps that have like a gig of just these random packages that I don't know what they're doing? And we've already seen so many security issues with the npm packages, and people are like, okay, yeah, whatever, like, but no, it's a serious thing. Like, security should be like super important if you're building like an actual line of business application or whatever, right? Like, you actually have a business that's doing something for real customers and people are using it and it's exposed. Now I get people could use that argument against like open source, any open source project. Yes, but no. Yeah, I feel like when I think of like how .NET, when I compare Node to .NET, I feel at least you're starting off in a better baseline, where
Well,
a lot of the stuff is already given to you by Microsoft, and you
that
can trust that it's secure already.
that's always the argument. Like, so if we're going in this direction of like, okay, node modules and that whole world, always the explanation, which is very valid, is that like there is no BCL, right? There
Yeah.
is no. So basically, you got to collectively take all these packages, even as small as they are, to collectively make that kind of base. So the argument is, oh yeah, well, when you install .NET, it's however many megabytes that you install on your drive, and then if you have if you're working on a project that is going to do anything worthwhile, yeah, you're going to be taking on a ton of packages in npm, because that's going to give you your foundation just like you would have. So I can kind of understand that. There's a big difference though, is that those collective small packages, you don't know where they're coming from and what you're taking on. When you have some sort of, some type of BCL that, say, if we're talking about .NET, you're talking about .NET Core, you know where that comes from. It's one author. Yes, it's collectively an open source. Yeah, it's collectively an open source thing, but ultimately it's getting approved by one organization, versus when you're using one package that has all these, transitive dependencies.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what they are. And this is the thing that I have said forever, which I don't think people take seriously at all, clearly, is because because package managers are so, when we talk about, like, everything's got trade-offs, right? So when you mentioned like if there's cruft, package managers to me have made it easier to share code at the expense of giving a shit that you're taking a dependency.
Yeah.
Right? You can take a dependency willy-nilly, like, oh, I need this package. It's this one function package because I need it. And you dismiss entirely taking on that dependency and the implications of taking on that dependency. Like, the moment you take on a dependency, to me, you have to own it. I don't mean literally own the code, but you have to take ownership that you have that dependency and what that dependency is going to mean to your code base, right? Like, going through the .NET Framework, .NET Core migration and looking at dependencies and all this other stuff, it made it abundantly clear to me on how much that really mattered, what I just said. Like, you're owning that. And if you want to make any progress, and when that, like, something like this comes along, is it just, I just take it depend, like, I need this package, who cares? Like, whatever. That's what package managers, I feel like, have made it. It's just,
that's like 99% of what people do, though. So
that's the problem.
And I do it too, right? Like, I do it too, and I recognize that I do it. But that's it. Like you're saying, it's like,
it's convenience. It goes back to what your comment was. It's what's the trade-off? It's you're getting convenience of being able to share and reuse code, which is fantastic. We could get, never mind into the ecosystems part of it, just dependencies in general, like outside dependencies. It allows you to reuse and share a lot of the code that otherwise you couldn't. But there's a cost to taking a dependency. I think that's where, if it really boils down to me, we're talking about all this stuff, there's a cost to taking on dependencies. I'm not saying you should write everything yourself, no, but there should be so just a lot of more thought put into it than, going into your package config and saying, okay, I'm adding this version. I need to find something. Let me go look on NPM or NuGet or whatever package manager you're using, and there it is, and then start using it. It's like, what?
Yeah. I mean, there's like we said, there's just this is such a huge topic. But yeah, for me, it's even when considering like Node versus .NET. Like this is probably one of the biggest reasons I would stay with .NET. I mean, there's other things like, career opportunities and like those kinds of things. But again, this comes back to kind of just my values as kind of a professional, kind of a professional. my values are like, I don't want to just like cobble together this thing because I know it's going to come back to bite me in the butt. It's going to come back to bite the business in the butt. And that's like, our loosely coupled show is, about design and architecture. And this is like a huge part of that people just, like, I don't want to say ignore, but again, it's so convenient. It's just, everybody does it, right? Everybody does it. It's so convenient. It's so fast. Everybody needs to move quickly. Then I get it.
Yeah.
But when I look at like, now I'm going to take on like 5,000 packages where like one of them adds padding to a string and one of them concatenates a string. Oh, but don't forget that package also has like a Bitcoin miner in it that you just have no idea. Like, so it's like, and I mean, obviously, like, yeah, in .NET, the typical way to get packages is through NuGet. It seemed, my impression, and this is not scientific, this is just given my experience, is that generally when I need something that the .NET framework does or platform doesn't give me, and I say, here's a package that I'm going to use that does that, 9 times out of 10, that's an open source package that is very reputable in the community. I would say never. I don't want to say never, but I'll say never, where I'll actually look at a package and I'll say, well, this is the kind of it's not very well known. It's to me, if I see a package that's not, it doesn't have that popularity, I guess. I don't know how reputation maybe is a better word. Reputation in the community. I won't do it. And the fact is, I have everything I need from reputable packages, and I can trust that they're vetted. And maybe this is part of it too, is the fact that like these NPM packages, for example, if we want to compare, like a lot of them just seem to be very like so focused, so tiny, and you have so many of them that it's how do you vet those? How do you vet like 3,000 packages? Like I install one package and it has like dependencies on 3,000 other packages. How do I vet that? Where my experience with like NuGet packages, for example, like literally I can look at a list and be like, okay, these are all built-in things that they come from Microsoft, they're built in, I can trust them. Oh, maybe there's 3 other things, and usually they're also very reputable packages that I can say, oh, okay, I already know these are vetted or have that reputation. At least that's my experience. And for me personally, I feel more comfort in that. And like you said, it's a lot easier. Like having to migrate from .NET framework to core, you have to start digging into your packages just to make sure the migration will go smoothly, because there's runtime issues too, right? You can't just you can't just say, okay, it compiles and it builds just the way that Microsoft kind of did .NET Standard and all that stuff. You have to dig in and figure that stuff out. But that's another topic. That's not ideal, but yeah, it's like you can do it. It's feasible to say, I'm going to go through all my packages and I'm going to vet them and I'm going to look at them. Whereas if I want to build like just a really simple client-side thing, but it's so overwhelming if you want to do something like that. Like, I don't even know how you would do something like that. Like, so I can see the benefit of these like collectives or organizations that I don't even know. I think there's a few of them. I know there's one really popular one, but basically where it's an organization and you pay for a subscription and you get your packages through them, and they, on your behalf, will vet all the packages.
And I think that solves kind of a need, in my opinion. Whether people view it the same way, I guess, is a difference. I mean, I guess we'll see how successful. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Loosely Coupled Show. If you did, please subscribe for more on software architecture and design.